crushed by spikes. Falling onto spikes. Jumping on spikes, for God's sakes! There! Oh, Jesus, Murphy. I'm so close. Now I can... Strawberry? I must have it. Damn it! Yes! No! Ah! Hold on. Hold on. Hold... Oh, God damn it! I gotta drop a bit sooner. So close. I can... You just can't win with this game. You try Hail Mary jumps. You try holding on for dear life. You try everything. Screw it. Let's just get this stage over with. Oh, God. It's one of those scrolling sections. Oh, Jesus. Oh, how many spikes does this game need? Oh, yeah. Woohoo! Here we go, buddy. Oh, no. I didn't even see that strawberry. Now I want it. Oh, look! Look at how close I was! Kicking ass. Oh yeah. I'm really flying. I gotta redeem myself for that. No! No! Oh! Here we go. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna... Damn it! Ah! Damn it! This isn't fair. It's beyond ridiculous. I can't take it. Why is everything so goddamn hard? Why must I fail at every attempt at platforming? You know what I think of you, game? You can just... Let's try again. If you've ever been burdened with anxiety, gotten addicted to the dopamine hit of social media followers, or just struggled with that shadow self that rises to the surface at times, Celeste hears you. It doesn't skirt around it. It instead delves directly into it, transforming our biggest fears into flying emo demons that break through mirrors and assault us with disintegrating laser beams. And the challenge that ensues is so arduous, to some, seemingly hopeless. But eventually, you succeed, even if you need a little help. And suddenly, you just feel put back together. If we can accept ourselves, even the parts that we know are unflattering, then we're going to be okay. Good to see you, gamers. Shep here from Gaming Introspection. Today is World Mental Health Day. and I'd like to recognize it with a short analysis, at least by my standards, into the wondrous world of Celeste, a multi-platform release in 2018. Before getting into the game, World Mental Health Day, for me, is such an important advocate for positive mental well-being. It reminds us to be considerate to the condition of the people around us, but also to be gentle with ourselves. And to understand that all of us have had days, weeks, hell, even months, where things just absolutely suck. The theme of this year's Mental Health Day says it best. Mental health is a universal human right, just as much as we should be able to speak freely, pursue our career goals, or anything else. We have the right to prioritize our mind's welfare. Let's avoid stigmatizing people based on things that they've been going through, groups that they are a part of, genders they identify as, and don't be hard on yourself if you're going through mental health issues yourself, such as depression or anxiety. I've faced the latter many times in recent years. Gaming is just a fantastic way to include everyone from any walk of life, age, gender, race, identification of any kind. I mean, it's a controller. You can use it, so can I, so can everyone else. So let's just game on. Let's make this hobby one of the safest places for anyone to participate, have a voice, and just enjoy life. Thanks. Now, let's get to the game. Celeste has been universally acclaimed for two reasons. One is blatantly obvious. It's a kick-ass 2D scroller. It boasts perfect platforming controls that you learn within 10 seconds. But it almost instantly takes the training wheels off, and quickly becomes one of the most challenging, reflex-triggering, break-out-in-a-sweat experiences you've had. And if you're as old as me, it may take you back to the NES and Genesis platformers of old, in how ridiculously small the room for error is. There's also, obviously, the delightful pixel art and evocative music. One of the best soundtracks I've experienced in the last decade, bar none. I'll be commenting on those elements in a future episode, more along the lines of my usual content. Celeste's narrative features fleshed out characters digging into these heavy themes. There's a real sense of purpose behind every line of dialogue, and Celeste doesn't pull any punches, depicting flawed humans who seem to be riddled with a variety of mental afflictions that threaten to overwhelm them at some points. The main cast includes the protagonist, Madeline, her other self, Badolin, Theo, a fellow mountain climber, and guest characters like Mr. Oshiro, who we'll touch on later. None of them, not even the sarcastic grandma character, are portrayed as unblemished, squeaky clean slates. Everyone is going through something, and Granny doesn't seem to care at first. I mean, seriously, who laughs sarcastically and incessantly, echoing it through the night sky, even after a young person who is just asking for help has already left the place? Inevitably, things get awkward sometimes. People chastise themselves, and conversations can become riddled with tension or outright insensitivity, especially when the other side of us makes itself known. Life isn't just going to coast by us flawlessly, with us building perfect relationships with no drama. Even amongst our close friends and family, we have had to deal with these uncomfortable conversations at several points in our life, and that's okay. Each one of us has our own crap that we have to go through. The resulting fallout can be messy, and even when it's done, it doesn't usually lead to a black and white, matter-of-fact solution or realization about life. But they do help, and we assuredly grow and progress because of them. Celeste emphasizes this brilliantly, leading Madeline through what's initially an extremely simplistic, self-motivated jaunt up a mountain into something much more cerebral and to the core of our being. I'm wondering if maybe that's why the core is the last level in the main game. The whole narrative speaks to our core, as if there's something within all of us we have to work hard to access, but it makes it worth it in the end, when we get there. let's use the cast and storyline to aid us in deciphering the game's commentary on mental health. The character who wants to get to their core the most is the protagonist, Madeline. Less than 20 minutes in, it's clear she's imperfect, like the rest of us. I mean, she's outright rude sometimes, or dismissive, and the garbles scream out this indifference when she speaks a bit out of turn. She'll even admit to her coping mechanisms, like drinking and trolling people. Sometimes life feels so unfair, we think the best strategy for addressing it is to make others feel worse. And that's a vicious, unhealthy cycle to say the least. She's someone who clearly suffers from a lot of anxiety. And all I can say is, damn! Madeline is a hell of a lot braver than I am. I mean, you spend most of your time in this game losing your grip in desperation, falling on spikes, jumping into spikes, running away from haunted ghosts, and getting incinerated by photon lasers. If my anxiety level spikes, and it often does, I'll admit that right now, climbing a 3-kilometer high mountain is the last thing I'd force myself to do. Madeline gets kudos just for the attempt. Despite this impressive fortitude, certain circumstances bring out her anxiety full force, like being stranded on a lift while ascending the mountain with Theo. It's a beautiful segment. First of all, how Theo recognizes Madeline's panic, especially due to him having a sister who puts the weight of the world on herself, and he coaches her through the scene, first with reassuring words, and then by teaching her to visualize a feather. As the player, you literally control the breathing that Theo instructs Madeline to do. And it's even extremely realistic in its timing, pressing the button down for 4 deep breath seconds before exhaling. This is a beautiful segment that reinforces how beneficial mental breaks and techniques can be to help us overcome something like anxiety, because it can be so debilitating. The characters speak in gibberish garbles, but I tell ya, it definitely adds something when Madeline's other self erupts and just lays into her with that haunting shrill in her voice, disabling Madeline's confidence, making her meek and squeaking like a mouse. The contrast creates such a sympathetic layer to the character, even beyond the words that are spoken. People often throw terms like meditation, mindfulness, and deep breathing out of the way without any regard. It's sad to see just how harsh people can be when we're sometimes told to toughen up or get over it. Sensitive people don't respond to that well. I'm in that category, and more often, a better tactic is to approach people with calmness and gentle encouragement and patience. This deep breathing exercise has no time limit for the player to contend with, and there's no penalty for failing. In stark contrast to the core game, which is twitch, muscle reflex, one miss, split second and you're dead territory, this segment literally lets the player breathe, compose themselves, and carry on. It's expertly delivered and blends into the theme of the game effortlessly. Now, let's analyze Theo. His calmness and consideration here are what makes him such a likable partner character to Madeline's fierce and intense personality. This zen-like quality is matched with some fun humor in their interactions together. The exoticness of his first impression wears off instantly when he reveals his far-off land of origin. Like Seattle. One-word sentence ends the mystique with a thud. That's awesome. And it's important to have some comic relief in a game like this. What's life without some levity and laughs? Celeste gets this too, because to only dwell on the negative aspects would limit the appeal of undergoing such a very tough challenge, which this game, and life, can be. I love how when he gets imprisoned, he dismantles her introspective monologue to get her focused on his predicament, which he makes such a half-hearted effort to understand. And then he talks in a way that makes Madeline believe he'll sacrifice himself, making it all melodramatic. And he's like, hell no, you better not leave me behind. Shortly after, Madeline's forced to lug him along, frantically dodging the evil flying deathfish, throwing Theo to trip switches to open the way forward. And he's like, yeah, I'm helping. Theo is uber chill, making no false pretenses about joining Madeline to the peak, and he really doesn't care about getting that far either. However, Theo suffers from his own vice in his social media addiction. It's an issue that only becomes more relevant with time. Technology moves so fast. TikTok wasn't even invented when this game came out, and it's only 5 years old. But the implementation of this and other short-form content have people scrambling like a whole new rat race, desperate to be known, trying to get that 1,000 or million follower milestone just to feel that insane dopamine rush. Well, not in all cases, but the line of thought can definitely drive people into some crazy situations in pursuit of those goals. Theo's take on this isn't nearly as overt or insane, but he makes no mistake about referencing how much his followers are going to drool over him taking selfies amidst an illustrious natural backdrop. There's tons of not-so-subtle cues here. In the chamber where Theo becomes imprisoned in Crystal, it's overtaken by so many eyeballs. Grotesque, oversized eyeballs that seem to show no empathy or care. Much like how anyone can hide behind their screens and scrutinize anything anyone puts out on the internet without any fear of reprisal. The spectacle of Celeste Mountain is what Theo feels will give him the external validation from his followers. If it was something easier, he'd do that instead. He even says, I doubt I'll make it to the summit. He'll do what's necessary to get validation from an audience, and that'll be the best. He commits to that. But he's not just a shallow cardboard cutout character. He's got his own backstory, family, and personality behind his social media lust. Theo shows a very close bond with his grandfather that started his photography as a genuine interest before social media, and reveals eventually that he just wants to figure this life thing out. We all feel lost sometimes, and there's no set age or circumstance that applies to everyone. Celeste encourages us to embrace this. Theo's approach is refreshing. It gives me hope that one can still live an honest, genuine life with meaningful relationships while also finding a small foothold in an online community. Theo and Madeline's final conversation has so much to say, if you allow it. Celeste tackles the issue of depression head on. It can't get any more explicit than this question. And while this would normally be a very difficult question to directly ask someone, the trials the two have gone through and the trust that they have for each other help this theme get light shone on it in a genuine way. Madeline handles it well too, with visual metaphors that may help gamers feel empathy, either towards themselves or someone close to them who may be going through it. It's too common for people to blame themselves, thinking they may have messed up. If someone I know was going through this and began blaming themselves, here's what I'd gently tell them. Please don't do this. Be yourself. Find the people who you know can help you, and don't give up. And don't turn away from an opportunity to reciprocate the favor when someone close to you is reaching out for help. This conversation is pivotal to understanding this. If you want, after exchanging some basic thoughts, you can avoid the deeper questions about depression and the more personal revelations among the characters. And if you choose, I should get some sleep, you bypass all of this. It's common when we're unwell mentally to want to avoid things, even when we know that they'll probably help us. Believe me from experience, the short-term pain and angst that you might feel going into an uncomfortable new situation is much less debilitating and damaging than escaping it will be down the road. Obviously, don't just reveal your inner hurt to any Joe Schmo on the street, but find people who you know have your best interests at heart, and you'll see that there's kindness, support, and even possible solutions offered that you may never have considered before. Another unique personality appears about halfway through Celeste. You enter this antiquated, long-forgotten hotel with this disembodied spirit, Mr. Oshiro, the former caretaker, clinging to Madeline's presence like a life preserver, even though he's already dead. You find entries in his diaries that suggest he just couldn't let go of the sudden closure of the hotel. There's a lot of details that aren't explicit here, but it paints the picture of a timid man who is woefully unsure of himself. Despite his salesman-like pitches to Madeline, offering her the presidential suite and promoting it ad nauseum despite her repeated insistence that she's just passing through. He constantly talks to himself, chastising his word selections, regretting actions, not even giving Madeline much credit for helping him clean. In life, he honestly may not have even really been good at his job, given the absolute explosion of clutter that bars Madeline's access to areas further into the place. But he's so obsessed with it, it's both charming and also pitiable, just how intense his connection is to a job and building. When Madeline confronts him fiercely, his doubt, hate, and fears all combine to create this violent, raging beast ghost that relentlessly attacks Madeline, needing someone to blame besides himself, unwilling to let go of his last memories. Like Granny says, it isn't just a job to him. It's great to be passionate, but being obsessive isn't positive when it's taken to this extreme. Sometimes we just have to know in our gut when a situation isn't healthy for us and get out of it, whether it's a job, a personal relationship, whatever the circumstances are that are binding us. Otherwise, we can linger in it for too long and end up wasting away. And maybe, if you believe in the afterlife, it could haunt us even beyond death. That looks like a very depressing proposal for life in general. Stepping beyond the situation we're in and making that bold move towards something different. Sometimes we need to do those things. It's on us. No one's going to make us do it. But oftentimes, the biggest risks present the biggest rewards. It's like Lee Everett said towards the end of The Walking Dead, don't let yourself become trapped.
You're just learning, Ella. Never let yourself get trapped, okay?
I won't.
It's a powerful message. Seeing him leave the hotel and join the entourage as the tale concludes is heartwarming. Maybe his spirit was able to rest shortly afterwards. The other part of Madeline, codenamed Badeline, goes through just as arduous and transformative a journey as Madeline does. I find the moment she first breaks out of this mirror very timely, as it's just when the game is starting to get very difficult, and both you and Madeline are probably wondering whether or not you've got what it takes. When the self-doubt is triggered, it can come out in full force in an attempt to tell us that we can't do something. How many of us have had that nagging voice inside our head telling us that we're just not good enough? That because we may have failed maybe many times in the past, what's the point in trying something new? I've had to deal with that a lot in the past, and I still do sometimes today. She represents all the self-doubt, worry, and defensive qualities that mental issues like depression and anxiety riddle us with. And just as we have trouble dealing with these in our own lives, Madeline wants nothing to do with her at first. She begins by showing fear and disdain for Madeline, wondering why she's trying to stop her. And after a few confrontations, even after acknowledging what she is, figures the best course of action at that point would be to leave her behind and send her off into some void of space. Anyone who's dealt with a depleted mental frame of mind can relate. When we feel miserable, we just want to cast it away, deal with it as swiftly and effortlessly as possible, just pretend it won't ever exist or come back. Unfortunately, doing this only makes it a bigger demon in our minds, and it can become overwhelming and attack us, which happens as Madeline lashes out at our protagonist, literally breaking out of her dialogue box to expel her uncontrollable emotions and hurt. And it suitably leads up to the most arduous boss fight in the entire game. It's not good to suppress real emotions that we feel, and it's even worse to dismiss them as something that we can just easily get rid of. Celeste's entire narrative sends a message that we just have to deal with and accept these less than ideal parts inside of us. If we can negotiate with them and deal with them in a healthy way, we might actually find that it makes us stronger in the end. Madeline shows resistance and hurt, like we all do when the rubber meets the road at times, but she gradually sees some positivity and even makes an effort to change, just like Madeline does, eventually wanting both of them to succeed in their quest to reach the summit of the mountain. It's a perfect metaphor for Madeline to have reached the summit with Madeline at her side, only able to do so after coming to terms with the totality of who she is. The montage of the two descending and spending some last moments bonding in their separate forms, which is what the power of the mountain provides, welled up more emotion in me than any recent game I can recall. While characters and narrative weave a powerful tale that emphasizes mental health, the actual gameplay of Celeste is perhaps the most brilliant form of communicating what anxiety is like, because we live it in a sense. That breathing feather moment, it's actually not just a relief for Madeline, it helps us as gamers. And anyone who's played Celeste knows the reason why. It's a super intense, stressful, twitchy platformer where death comes fast and often. There's no life bar or 3 hits like many other games. One slip up and you're dead. Jump too far? You're dead. Use up your dash jump too early? Dead. There's even times when you actually can save yourself, trying desperately to hold on to a wall, but you have very limited stamina, and more often than not, you fall into the abyss and die. But you respawn almost instantly, so you can die, and die some more, mastering tiny differences each time you play. It's a rush. Your fingers are cramped and gripped hard around the controller. Your breathing becomes sharp and shallow. You're screaming out swear words. Literally might even begin sweating as you try for the 45th time to get that strawberry that almost seems to laugh at you as it knows you can't dash or it'll just fly away. It's literal anxiety, but somehow the developers do it in such a way that it screams positive reinforcement. Check this out. Be proud of your death count. Every death means you're learning and getting better. And it's so true. It's not uncommon to die 20 or 30 times on a single screen. But in between all those deaths, you're refining your reaction times, you're learning the layout just a tiny bit better, You're experimenting on jumping a bit sooner or later, and eventually you get a flow state going. Your timing and button presses just seem to go on autopilot as you observe Madeline just bouncing through the stage, sometimes barely even touching the ground. The feeling you get when you finally pull off the flawless run after dying so many times, or master one of the longer continuous scrolling sections, or when you finally snatch up that strawberry that seems to be taunting you. Oh, it's unlike any other platformer I've ever played. It's trial by fire, and yes, it's stressful. But if you try hard enough, you do succeed. Metaphors for life abound in Celeste, and this one connects the best with us.
We fail every day. Lots! Just look at me making these videos. I suck ass so often.
I don't even get the names of characters right, even after going through the editing process. Epona's an amazing jumper, so you're already smirking when Igor tries to get the last word in by closing the main gate in front of you. I have trouble making clear S sounds when I speak.
To waggle our way into the hits and misses of Wii Sports.
And lots of my stuff just rambles on for way too long.
And you know what? I'm still going to make errors along those lines and in brand new ways, no matter how many videos I make. But I'm learning and growing.
There's moments I'm proud of that are memorable. There's segments that flow well or show genuine emotion.
I think I'm okay. I think I'm gonna be...
And I get to spend amazing time with my nephew while I do it.
Oh, my eye!
There's so many small victories in our lives, our jobs, our relationships that we need to embrace and celebrate. Just like we should celebrate progress in Celeste.
Full disclosure, I'm not even close to being a good player at this game. Look at my first save file.
I gathered a pitiful 28 out of almost 200 strawberries, barely 10%. And I could not beat that demonic other self boss without enabling the assist mode. That was back in 2018, and there it sat. Diving back into this game this summer, I was even older than I was then, but for some reason, I had more patience. My reflexes actually improved, and I was able to actually beat it legitimately after spending over half an hour on this thing. Oh, and I even managed to find over half of the strawberries in the game.
Is that impressive? Nope, not in the least.
I'd wager there's dedicated players who can speedrun this entire game in less than an hour and find all the strawberries. But for me, this was a good feeling. It's self-improvement. There's a graph that even begs to be filled in with your personal bests in both times and collectibles. Celeste wants you to get better, but it doesn't abandon you if you need help either. Some players just aren't platform savvy, but really get invested in the storyline. And if that's you, just use the assist mode. Dash as many times as you need to in order to make it to the next emotional beat in the story.
The entire game is about self-improvement, and that occurs not just by bettering our outward skills, but by looking inward and coming to terms with who we are, our pluses, our minuses, even our identity.
We can be battling anxiety, self-doubt, feelings of envy, loneliness, whatever it is, and still be good people. Let's just try to be good people and support others as they're also trying their best. Oh, we'll make mistakes. We'll be short with people sometimes, say the wrong thing, give in to past demons at some very unideal times. All of us will go through intense lows, like we're spiraling down into the abyss, grasping at straws and trying everything to stop it without any success. And sometimes it gets so bad that we do think to ourselves, why go on? It's all over and everything is pointless. This is what depression can feel like. It can grip us extremely tightly, and we feel like we're in a vice grip with no one to turn to.
If you're in this spot, or you know someone who is, don't be afraid to reach out. Find the most important people in your lives and talk to them. Make yourself heard. Failing that, don't be afraid to reach out to a therapist or a mental health professional. You deserve it. Both you and your loved ones deserve happiness. We all have so much internal worth just for being here. We're all taking the same journey, just with different steps.
When we eventually find our way, we'll breathe, keep going, and eventually we'll look back at that battle and know that it's transformed us into someone who's flawed, scarred, but here. Someone who's overcome adversity and didn't let failures keep them down. When you reach that summit in Celeste, the 5 to 10 hours it took you to get there flash by in your mind. You're impressed with yourself that you actually made it this far. And when Madeline suggests just taking a minute to soak it all in, I'm guessing a lot of us did just that. You can reach this pinnacle in your life, too. It's a goal of mine as well. Are we there yet? I'd wager most of us aren't. Many of us are likely less than halfway up the mountain, and some of us are stuck in a segment of our lives that just seems to be beating us down continuously without relenting. But we'll make it. Someday.
That's it for today's episode, gamers. Wherever you are and whatever your circumstances, I genuinely wish you all the best. So keep enjoying video games and keep looking out for the mental health of yourself and the loved ones around you. We are all much stronger than we know. Take care.